Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Ask the Experts, an award-winning daily series from 8:30 to 9 a.m. to help small businesses. If you have any questions to ask, please ask them in the comments of the live feed, regardless of which platform you're on. If you need any more advice, join the official Intuit QuickBooks SMB community group on Facebook. Accountants and business experts are on hand 24/7. During this live session, we will be running a poll, so please do engage with it, and I will reveal the results at the end. Morning, everyone. My name is Sean Goldsmith. I've been on the Ask the Experts show a few times now. So what I thought I would do today is go back to basics and start talking about franchising. But just to give you a little bit of background on me, I'm the co-founder of a company called Grow Global, and we help companies, both small and large, expand their footprint through franchising here in the UK and abroad. And we also help companies go international. We do a bit of training, franchise training, executive training, and pretty much anything to do with franchising we try and get involved with. Right, so let's just get onto the subject of franchising. So, I'm going to be speaking predominantly towards people who have small businesses right now, who are thinking about franchising their business. But please, if there are any questions that if you're thinking about joining a franchise, etc., please feel free to ask the questions during the stream. So, what is franchising? Well, franchising has many different definitions, but one of the simplest ways to look at it, I think, is what franchising is a really, really cost-effective way for good businesses to be able to expand their footprints really rapidly, right? So when I say cost-effective, what this means is, in the traditional sense, if you were opening up a branch network, what you would have is quite a big sort of capital expenditure that you would need to make in order to be able to get those branches up and running, etc. You need a lot of money to be able to do it, right? And you need a really strong business, etc. And then once you've started opening up your branches, you've got to hire your staff, you've got managers, you've got all kinds of things in place. All wonderful, all work. Millions of businesses out there that have done it this way. What franchising does is a slightly different approach. So what franchising is an ability to get somebody to buy into your business, buy into your dream, and buy into your vision, right? And then use their own capital to be able to expand your business. So if you are based in Winchester and you have an extraordinary little business, let's just call it lawn cutting for instance. This could be a restaurant, it could be anything really. Let's call it lawn cutting. You put your advertising out there and somebody comes along and says, you know what, I am, I've been working in the city my whole life. And by the way, this happens all the time. I've been working in the city my whole life. It's been a high pressure environment. And I've just got to make a change. I've got to make a fundamental change to my life. I don't want to make decisions anymore. I don't want any of that pressure anymore. And this lawn cutting franchise sounds just the gig for me. They come in and they find out more about your business. They look at their numbers. And usually what happens is people are pleasantly surprised and how much money can actually be made, in some of these very basic services. A friend of mine, Rune, often speaks about how to make your first million just, with a plumbing business. But anyway, so you've got this lawn cutting business. He's not based in Winchester. He's based in, let's just call it Cambridge. Right. So what happens is, as a business, what you would do is you package everything up. You create your operations manual, and your operations manual is the how-to guide every single step of the way on how to do everything. So, first thing in the morning, answer your emails, then get back to your new prospects. Check out your staff, make sure that they're in good uniforms. Try switch on your lawnmowers and your strimmers just to test they're okay. So that whole day is out and about, and there's no interruptions, right? So the franchisor puts together this manual and this operations manual and this guide for how to run the day. Now, bearing in mind, what that franchisor is doing is they are taking 10 years of experience, or sometimes more, and they're packaging it into a small document that allows you as the newbie, the franchisee, right, to accelerate your growth in a massive way, because you are not going to make the mistakes that this franchisor has made, time and time again, right? So effectively what you have is a shortcut to success through franchising. But as a franchisor, as a business who's actually, franchising there, their system. What franchising also gives you is it gives you an entrepreneur, right, who is running that branch for you. It gives you somebody who is absolutely enterprising, somebody who's got a massive vested interest in the success of that local branch, of that franchise. This is something that you cannot get from a branch network, or very, very rarely. If you do find an extraordinary manager, it's a bit of a unicorn, generally speaking in retail, and, if you've got a branch network. But in franchising, it's very common because, the people are coming in and they're putting a lot of money down in order to build your system, in order to expand your business. Now, the other really, really good competitive edge that franchising gives you as a business, if you're launching your business, right, is that it is also a local operation. So when that guy opens up in Cambridge, right, there's a big difference between a branch network and a franchise network in terms of the actual support to the community. So a branch network, say, for instance, you are part of a big retailer, hundreds of stores all over the place, clothing stores, etc., right? That branch is doing a great trade. It's on the high street. Thousands of people come by there. What generally happens is most of the money from that store will go back to the head office, and that head office may be based wherever that is tax efficient, etc., etc. With a franchise, the majority of the money actually stays in the local area, right? So those people who have bought a franchise live in that area. They send their kids to school over there. They buy locally. All of the usually around 90% of the funds will stay in that particular area, right? Really, really good for local economies. People are buying from a local person, even though it's part of a franchise. This person is invested in a brand and a system and know-how, right? What they actually have is a local business who's just invested heavily to make sure that the customers get the best possible service, right? So that as few things as possible can go wrong. It also gives the consumer the confidence that, if something does go wrong, they've got some way to complain to, right? So there's an ability to escalate a complaint. So in many, many ways, franchising is an incredibly powerful tool for expansion. Now, how do you know as a business whether or not you are ready for franchising? Well, the shortcut is to speak to somebody like me or many of the other consultants that you might find on the British Franchise Association website, etc. And they would basically do an assessment. But a general rule of thumb is, if you're in a business and your business has been running for 5+ years, all your systems are in place, and you're fairly confident that if you were to put this into a manual, right, and give people a step-by-step guide, that they would be able to follow it, replicate it, right, and hopefully exceed the expectations, financial expectations that you might have. So if, say, for instance, over the course of 5 years, you are turning over, call it £500,000, right? What you want to be able to do is you want to be able to help your franchisee accelerate their success so that they are able to hit that £500,000 with hard work and effort. They are able to hit that £500,000 way before you did, right? Because otherwise, what is the point? Otherwise, they might as well just have gone and done it themselves, made all the mistakes that you made, etc. So, if you feel like you've got something that's replicable, and I need to say over here, because I don't think people fully understand how vast franchising is, right? So as an example, just in the last few weeks, the areas that we've been covering have been jewelry for babies. We've got a potential client out in the Middle East for that. We are helping a company in Australia, a dessert company, with franchising. It's cookie dough, right? Desserts, which is apparently very popular in Bondi Beach. We were talking about celebrants. There's all kinds of different things. Pretty much any business that you can think of. Some of the most successful companies in the US are junk collection. They go around and they just pick up the odd junk in the backyard. So this could be anything really. Anyway. So effectively, if you feel like you've got something that is replicable, what I would do is, go and have a chat to somebody, a franchising consultant make sure that they know what they're talking about, right? And because there's a lot of charismatic people out there, as with any industry in the world. So I would definitely recommend going onto the QFA, the Qualified Franchise Association, or the BFA, the British Franchise Association. Take a look at the consultants on there, and then interview a few. Don't just stick with one. Very, very important. Make sure, most importantly, make sure that they are using a BFA certified lawyer to do the contracts, because the contract is the single most important thing that you've got in that franchise, especially a few years from now. Anyway, guys, listen, I'm going to jump onto some questions, because I think that's probably that kind of time. So we've got Will on Instagram. Drilling down everything we do into one handbook seems like a very taxing task. What if you miss something? What goes into it, and is there help to make one? So Will, it is massively taxing, but let me just tell you, it is one of the most extraordinary experiences that you can go through. So what we do when we help our clients develop their operations manual, it is more than just jotting down the things that you do, right? It is a whole process where you honestly, the amount of thinking and consideration that you put into your business, that process of building your operations manual, honestly is game changing. So most of the clients that we do operations manuals for, within the first 2 sessions, are making fundamental changes to their business, to their current business, and it's because most of the time the entrepreneur, the person who's running the business, has been so busy running it and hustling and making sure that everything works, etc. That they literally just didn't have the time to sit down and really think about the business itself. So we go through this process. We have this what we call the franchise operations manual, operation system. It's based on a book called Traction, which I actually have over here. So I don't know if you've ever seen Traction, but Gino Wickman wrote the book, and he's got the entrepreneur operation operating system. So we have a very set process that you go through, and this will happen with whoever you use. And they will ask you questions that will really sort of challenge you and make you think, well, actually, I could change this here and I could change that here. So it's a fantastic process. The good thing is that the operations manual is your living document within the franchise, right? So this document is something that is never complete. So in the first instance, what you do is you try and capture as much as you possibly can. So if you're in the food business, as an example, you've got to be much more specific on the health and safety and those kind of things. If you're cutting lawn, you can put down the basic operations. And then what you do over time is, as questions come up and as you're dealing with particular issues and, when there's IT things that have to sort of be considered, you start implementing them and you start adding to your operations manual. So, you have the franchise contract on one hand, which is static, never ever changes regardless of who the franchisee is. And on the other side, you have the living side of that franchise contract, which is the operations manual. And that can change, constantly. I hope that answers the question. If you want any advice, please feel free to contact me directly. No strings attached, just, I'll talk you through the whole process. I hope that answers the question. Anyway, I'm going on to Lee from Instagram. How have your own franchises fared over the last 18 months? Did you have to make any tough decisions, and how did you make them? Well, Lee, so the franchises that I own have all done all right. 1 or 2 franchisees have moved on, but we are in pretty resilient sort of sectors, so that's not too bad. But I run a mastermind group with over 300 franchisors, so I speak to a lot of people a lot of time. And generally speaking, the support that the franchisors have offered over the past 18 months has actually probably saved hundreds of small businesses within their franchise networks. So when lockdown first kicked in, we all thought it was going to be it would be carnage, right? But this mastermind group, all the franchisors got together. It was extraordinary to see the level of support that was given to each other. So the franchisors were basically creating this mega mastermind group, within this mastermind that I created. And every challenge that they came across where they were feeling disheartened, or there was a particular challenge with rescuing franchisees, etc., you would have 10 or 12 or 13 franchisors all jumping in, and giving advice and giving guidance and everything like that. No strings attached. It was extraordinary to see. So the level of franchisees that went out of business over the past 18 months has been incredibly low, because of the additional support, etc., that the franchisors have offered. The franchisors were doing helping with the government loans, with the processes, etc. So it was fantastic to see, and that's on every single level. Some areas were hit harder than others, like the hospitality, the food industry, etc. But again, the guys just pulled together and they made a plan and rescued a lot of franchisees. It was extraordinary to see. Abigail on Twitter, what sort of technologies are most popular with franchises at the moment? So the technologies really, the most important technologies usually are just the CRM systems. And there are very few CRM systems in the world that cater for franchising. And franchising is a bit complicated because, you've got a head office, which is a company, and then each franchisee is its own company, and there's reporting and all kinds of stuff. So there's an additional layer of reporting that has to happen in there. So CRM systems are high on the agenda, but very few are very good for franchising. The second one is social media, right? So marketing, and the ability to be able to manage social media at scale has been something that companies have been struggling with for a long, long time. So it's not just a matter of using a Hootsuite or one of those platforms, because again, you've got this dynamic where the franchisee needs to be able to do local local messaging, etc. They are independent. They're allowed to do their own thing, etc. But at the same time, the franchisor is in control of, the brand, and to make sure that there's no brand damage and, a slip of the tongue on some social media. So social media technology has been a big one. Other things that have come into play recently have been, GTP3, so the AI technology that's doing a lot of copywriting right now. So like websites like copy.ai, etc., are making a big difference when it comes to creating content. Very, very intelligent systems. So yeah, I hope that answers your question over there. Right, Fran on Twitter DM. I work really hard, but often find that me and my team are at capacity. Do you have any advice on how to prioritize workloads and essentially make more time? Fran, we discuss this a lot. So I also I'm on an app called Clubhouse with a bunch of other entrepreneurs, and we get this question a lot from our audience. The reality is that the ability to make time is really dependent on your ability to extract yourself from the business, right? So as the business leader, what you have to be able to do is create the environment where you can be directing in the truest possible way, not getting involved. And working hard doesn't necessarily mean working smart, but expansion can be painful for small businesses, right? The process of expansion is something that stymies many businesses when it comes to growing. And in particular, what it is the big problem that you have is when you are expanding, when you're trying to extract yourself as the entrepreneur, what happens is you end up having a big old salary increase, right? And you probably don't get as much done over the shorter term, right? Because the new staff member needs to learn the way, needs to learn how to do all these things, and also necessarily needs to make mistakes, right? And that's something that a lot of entrepreneurs really struggle with, the ability to allow people to make mistakes and learn and develop from that. So my best advice really, and, this is a very big discussion, especially if you are very busy and you're at full capacity. My best advice is basically try and, as far as possible, extract yourself, pull yourself out of the operations. What we've done recently, is we've hired quite extensively, but because of the pandemic, we've also sort of hired internationally. And this isn't outsourcing in the truest sense of the word, but we've got a few team members now in South Africa, as an example, that just complement our team over here. It's the funniest thing, because 18 months ago, I would never, ever, ever have thought that, you could recruit all over the world. and still get an efficient workforce. And it's actually turned out really, really well. So maybe if it's a cash flow thing, then take a look at potentially hiring outside. But I'd be more than happy to spend half an hour with you just to give you a run through on how franchisers do it, because they're very efficient at this. Franchisors are always hot on the topic of trying to get the franchisee to kind of step back and let other people do the work. So feel free to contact me about that, and I'd be happy to help. Patrick on Instagram DM: as a business leader, I think it's important to shout about the successes you and your team achieve. I find it tricky doing this though, without coming off like we're bragging. Any advice? Patrick, yes, just brag. Honestly, the thing is, the one thing I've learned about, the British since I've lived here, bearing in mind my parents are British, but the British are very, very humble, right? And sometimes too humble. And, if I was to say to you that, your bragging is actually not bragging, right? Your bragging is being proud of your team, right? It is not a thing where Patrick is too big for his boots or his head is too big, et cetera, et cetera. The bragging can be done in a very, very classy way, right? And if nothing else, what it is a very, very smart marketing tool, right? Every single person that I speak to, franchisors, franchisees, independent businesses on Clubhouse, when we speak to them, the one thing that I always say to them, right, is currently one of the most important methods of marketing your business, right, is personal branding, right? So becoming a key person of influence within your sector. And in order to do that, you've got to talk about the successes, right? You can do it in a nice way, but you've got to talk about them, right? And do it with a smile on your face and be proud of your team, because everyone's worked hard to achieve what they've achieved. But you need to step forward, because again, what this pandemic has done, and this was something that many people were talking about for years and years before, but it really came home, during the pandemic, is currently in the world, right? What we used to have was the brand as our shield, right? So every book, every marketing technique used to say brand, 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 put the brand in front of everything, put the brand in front of everything. And that has fundamentally changed, right? Your brand is now the army behind the leader, right? So the person who's involved in the business, right? That is what people buy into, the human, the fallible human, right? The slick, polished, perfect videos and things like that have much less traction than just a bloke or a lady coming onto camera and talking, right? And just talking about the industry, etc. So it's important that you do step up. It's important that you do a bit of bragging, right? Because you are the human face of your brand. You need to take advantage of that. The people that do that well are going to be the guys who succeed in the future. The guys who don't do that will really, really struggle. I hope that answered the question, Patrick. Hasib on Facebook Messenger: I currently operate a restaurant and our food delivery went through the roof through lockdown. I've considered franchising. What should I be considering for this next step? I'm conscious perhaps that food deliveries will drop off now lockdown is lifted. Hasib, we deal with so many companies that are doing this, and the delivery sector has genuinely flown through the roof. Franchising, if your business is consistent, right, and it is doing well, I don't think that deliveries are going to diminish that much, because I think that people are now used to and comfortable with ordering. I mean, there's a company that's arrived in London from Turkey that is doing grocery delivery at the moment, under 10 minutes. I guess the only thing that you need to be very, very sure of with your doing the deliveries and continuing on franchising it that way is that your food is actually secondary to the ability to deliver. And at the moment, delivery drivers are at a massive premium, right? Everybody is trying to hire delivery drivers, and they're tough to find. The other problem is, as you probably know very well by now, is depending on the weather, it depends on how many people are going to pitch up. Because on a rainy day, guys on scooters just, are very sick for some reason. So franchising it is an absolute possibility. I'd love to chat to you about that. So feel free to contact me. Be able to talk you through how we're doing it. As I said, even the company that we have in Australia at the moment, they're two young British kids who went out to Sydney, couldn't find a job, started making their favorite desserts because they were self-confessed kind of addicts to cookie dough desserts from Liverpool. So they started making cookie dough desserts out of their kitchen. Within 3 months, they'd saved 30,000 Aussie dollars. They now have 2 stores that they're running, and they're expanding like the clappers, but that's all was also down to them being able to get great delivery drivers and, make sure that deliveries can happen. So feel free to contact me. I'd love to chat to you about that. Kelly on Twitter DM. What's better, a family-owned small business that then becomes a franchise, or a business set up with the intention of franchising? Which one is more likely to be successful? Both, Kelly, if I'm honest. The thing is, if a business sets up with the intention to franchise, then, there's probably some experienced franchising people involved. And once you understand franchising, you are able to franchise pretty much anything once you understand the concepts of it. But to be fair, both of them, as I said right in the beginning, both of them end up becoming local businesses, right? Because whether it's franchised or not, it's really just the back end and the systems and the service to the customer. Because there needn't be a massive difference between a family business, a traditional family business in terms of the service that they provide, right, and a franchise. The only differences, I guess, is that a franchise will take the collective intelligence of all the franchisees, right, and constantly be looking at the things that work best, constantly be looking at the products that sell best, right? So it becomes much slicker, much quicker. But both are fantastic. There's some incredible family brands, right, that have franchised over the years and done incredibly well because of that heartfelt sort of center of theirs. So definitely have a think about that. I'd again happy to chat to you and help give advice on that anytime. Right. Last question we're going to go to quickly is Kathy on Instagram DM. When choosing a franchise, what are the things that one should focus on? While profitability will be an important factor, what are the other factors to consider? Right. So, Kathy, here is the secret that nobody knows about franchising, and I'm going to share it with you right now. Under the hood, almost all franchises are the same, right? So, if you were to pay, £6,000 for your franchise, and I promise you'll do some research, it'll work out. If you pay £6,000 for your franchise, you're probably going to be turning over about £2,000 to £3,000 a month, right? You pay £25,000 for your franchise, you're probably going to turn over $300,000 to about £500,000 a year, right? And the franchise fee is quite a good indicator of as to the profitability. But what happens is you'll find hundreds at those price ranges, right? So what you need to do is actually, before considering the profitability, because given the effort that you're going to put in, because bearing in mind, a franchise is not a guaranteed form of success, right? You still need to work it as hard as you would if it was your own business. But given that you're going to make a profit, 93.7% of franchisees are successful, right? According to the NatWest survey. What you need to do is find the thing that you love. That's the most important thing. You need to find the thing that you're going to be able to wake up 2 years from now and absolutely love what you're doing, right? So consider all the factors. Very, very important during the franchise recruitment process. Get to know the operations people. The sales guy, the owner, the person who is selling you the franchise, right, is going to be very, very, very enthusiastic about their brand, as they should, right, because it's their baby. But the operations people are usually the people who really don't have time to mess around. And if you ask them a question, they will give you the dead straight answer, right? In fact, they'll probably make it sound a lot worse than it is, because they are the people who are dealing with you on a day-to-day basis as a franchisee, right? So definitely get to know the operations team, and of course, phone the franchisees. Just phone around, find out what it is. But don't look at the profitability to start off with, because most of them will make a good profit, and they'll be able to do what they say. Look at what you love. Anyway, right, guys, before I get moaned at by the lovely Tio in the background over here, the poll results are in. We asked you, are you considering franchising your business? 50% of you said no, and 50% of you said I'm not sure, and 0% of you said yes. which is a great shame. I promise you, it is a fantastic industry to be in. Anyway, guys, thank you all for tuning in. If you want to get in contact with me, you can email me on sean@growglobal.com, and that's GROE global.com, or visit our website, www.growglobal.com. Again, GROE global.com. Coming up on Ask the Expert on Monday is Eva Mazhakova, an accountancy market specialist from Iris Software Group. Tune in for the latest business tips and advice on your bookkeeping. A reminder that if you need any more advice, join the official Intuit QuickBooks SMB community group on Facebook. Accountants and business experts are on hand 24/7. Really enjoyed answering your questions this morning, and have an absolutely fantastic day, guys. See you later.